Okay guys, this video is a pre-embargo video. Basically, we're not allowed to talk about driving impressions, but I can tell you everything else about the TRD Camry and the TRD Avalon. And the real story has to do with the handling of the vehicle and of course the way it looks. Come over here, let's have a look at the Camry. Now, you may notice right off the bat in terms of overall looks, one of the main differences are the wheels. Now these wheels, which are actually pretty damn good looking, are the same on both vehicles. And it is a lighter, wider wheel. All right, let's continue. Notice the difference in terms of styling? TRD things. So they're adding this extra lip with the red stripe, the blacking things out. You already have the monster grille. It's really noticeable on the Avalon. We'll get to that in a minute. But that's part of the exterior look, but you may have noticed something else. The car is a little bit lower. And that's because these are stiffer springs underneath, which are 15 millimeters lower than the regular springs that would be on the SE or the XSE, which basically means you have a stiffer car, you have a lower ride height, which is better for cornering, and they've tested the hell out of it. So they're basically sure that this is a good ride height or you won't bottom out on everything. Let's continue. Over here, can you see those brakes? Those beefier brakes with 2 piston calipers as opposed to 1 up front, and better venting. So they stay cooler, they're bigger, better grab, better stopping. Also, there's other suspension upgrades in there, including retune shock absorbers. And as we head towards the back, the entire suspension has been augmented and redone. However, the rear brakes remain the same as in the regular Toyota Camry, with the exception of the painted calipers, just to keep it looking cool. There's more, because back here, it's still the same size trunk, but there's a major difference. One of the things they wanted to do was create overall stiffness in the platform to allow it to handle better. Once again, this TRD package is really about handling. So, see this bulkhead back here? Well, you can't quite see it, but behind it are cross braces. Now that increases the overall rigidity of the vehicle, but unfortunately, it does mean that the rear seats in the Camry are fixed. So it's a trade-off. A little bit better performance, not as much cargo space. Come on over here. Those are 4-inch exhaust tips. Now the exhaust system does increase the sound and makes it much more of a performance sedan in terms of sound. But according to Toyota, it does not increase the horsepower. So it's 301 horsepower. And here's the cool part that a lot of you may not know. This is the least expensive way to get a Toyota Camry with a V6. Isn't that crazy? Prices, boom, right down here. Now, here's the one part that a lot of journalists have been scratching their heads about, because that is one beefy ass spoiler, isn't it? Now, it's a front wheel drive car, but according to Toyota, at high speeds, this does come into effect and it does help the handling at high speeds. I tend to think that spoilers are useless on front wheel drive vehicles at low speeds, and for the most part they are. But once again, Toyota says at high speeds, this comes in handy. Let's have a look at the Toyota Avalon. Now we'll start on the front end because it's even more aggressive looking than the Toyota Camrys. Yes, they have that massive grille, and I mean, it is freaking huge. But they added to it with what I like to call the snowplow. That's this section out here, and this is meant to be like that. Adds to downforce, makes it look a little bit more aggressive, and at the same time is something that you will tear off if you bottom out too many times. But that's the same on a lot of the performance cars out there. Once again, just like the Camry, you do have this lower valance that goes all the way throughout the side of the car with the red stripe, and you have these really good looking 19-inch wheels. Once again, I really like the matte finish on them. Same brakes as the Camry, same size. So the larger diameter, 2 piston brakes up front with the augmented suspension. Once again, you have the coil springs that are 15 millimeters lower. It's a little over a ½ inch. I never thought I'd really like Avalons, and for the past couple of years, I've really been liking them, which either shows I'm getting old or that they're getting better. I just wish the grille was a little less grilly. Come on over here towards the back. Now, once again, a lot of the components, in fact, almost all the components off the Camry are also on the Avalon, and that's including the 301 horsepower V6 engine. It is the same, but it does get the TRD exhaust system. Now, they won't say this because they don't want to be put on the spot with specific numbers and people putting these things on various types of rolling sidewalks to see whether or not the numbers are accurate. So they're not going to give us a number of horsepower increase, but the idea is it flows better and it has better throttle response. Those things we know as driving it, so we understand that part. So it stands to reason that you might get a little bit more power out of having the TRD exhaust package, which by the way is standard on the TRD, Avalon, and Camry. Come on towards the back. A little bit different back here. Once again, 4-inch tips in the back, TRD exhaust. But notice, small spoiler, not big one. I think they felt that it was a little much to put the giant wing on the back of the Avalon, and I would agree with them. I think this is a little bit more tasteful. According to them, it still does cause more downforce. It is better for road holding at high speeds, but there's something else. If you lament the fact that in the Camry, you're losing trunk space because of the crossbars, well, in this car, you're not. And the reason why is because they don't have the extra crossbars in there. So you have the regular trunk and you have the pass-through. So that's a benefit. Let's have a look at the interior after you guys get a gander at that badass diffuser, which I don't really think does much, but the good looking exhaust. All right, there we go, look at this. This is all unique to the TRD package, including obviously the TRD stitching, the red on black. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Seats are still comfy Camry seats. There's a lot of red stitching that you can see throughout the vehicle. That's obviously unique to the TRD as well. That's including the red stitching here and the red stitching on the steering wheel, which by the way is a really good feeling steering wheel. Now, for those of you who are wondering, it still has the same 8-speed automatic transmission it had before. It still has the same steering system it had before. So the gearing, the ratios, they're all the same that they were before. According to Toyota, the rest of the car drives very much like a Camry until you start throwing it into corners. And I think that's really the whole point. You want to have your Camry, but you want to have a little bit of fun. This is the car to get. I did mention before that this is the least expensive way to get into a Camry V6 too, but there is a little bit of a problem. That's this. No sunroof is available for the Camry TRD. According to Toyota, they wanted to make it as stiff as possible, have the stiffest platform, so by putting a sunroof in here or the big panoramic roof, it would actually decrease the overall rigidity. So you're out of luck if you want a sunroof, unless you take a Sawzall or a handsaw and decide to cut one on your own. Okay, now these seats are a little bit different, even though they are augmented in a similar way to the Camry. So you have the TRD stitching, you have the unique stitching here and stripes, but it is obviously a different seat. That's because you obviously have a different interior. This is the Avalon. It's a lot more sophisticated, it's a little bit more grown up, but it still has the TRD touches, which includes raised stitching right here and here on the gear lever. And of course on the steering wheel, this is basically the same steering wheel that's on the Camry. Still quite nice, I like the feel of it. This is a different car, so it has a different build and it has different requirements. And they felt that keeping the sunroof on this one was important. So you get everything you want on this car. If you want the sunroof, you can actually get one. In fact, it comes standard on the Avalon. Oh, and one more thing. If you don't like red and black for stitching and interior, you're out of luck. That's the only way they do the TRD, at least for right now. The Avalon pricing is right. Yeah. So as you can see, these are packages that allow you to get better performance out of the vehicle. Now, an actual driving video where we take these things out on the track and out on the road, well, that's coming up in the near future. And that will be a full driving impression video, but this is a pre-embargo video. So we're giving you as much as we can, as quickly as we can. Thank you for joining me. Don't forget, we got more videos coming out with the TRDs and more stuff from Texas Motor Speedway, and that's coming up really soon. I'll see you next time.